Welcome to TLC for the Soul podcast, where soul meets spirit. You have entered into sacred space. I'm your host, Tammy Lynn Chambers, and I'm here to help you shine. Now let's get going on this podcast journey. Hello, friends. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. This is the next chapter, the next part in Viola Fire, our story for this next, I don't want to say month, because I think it's really started with Aries season, even though we did the intro last weekend. Just getting settled in here. This is kind of an interesting time. I'm recording this. Usually I upload the same day that I'm recording this, but we're in the middle right now of the 555 bonus workshop. So that is something that has gone over the past 5 days. I've uploaded one each day. It's a past series of work, an online workshop that I did, I don't know, like 3 years ago, I think. But it's very profound. People have reported a lot of interesting little miracles that have happened as they've taken the workshop. It's 5, we explore 5 elements, 5 sacred places, and 5 light language activations on your journey. And the day I'm recording this, which usually is on Sunday mornings, I'll upload day 5 for you guys. If you've been following it, if you haven't, just go back in the podcast. It's easy, right, to go back in the podcast. Just scroll back and go to day 1, and you should start on day 1 and do each day in order. If you're new to the podcast, welcome to the TLC for the Soul family. We are all over the place in podcast realm. So you've probably found us on a major podcast provider, or you're coming as a follower from our Instagram or YouTube channels. Thank you for joining me here. Stick around, see if we resonate with you. And if not, well, there's plenty of other podcasts to follow. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us on the journey. There's a slight bit of wind, and I didn't bring the other microphone this morning. I wasn't even sure I was going to record, and then I was like, yeah, I need to record. I always record. Why wouldn't I? So there might be a tiny bit of wind in the microphone, but we can roll with that. This is the second in Viola Fire. This is our story for the month, and so far for this month of March, we have had plenty of resources to help you along on your journey, on your path. We just recorded the mid-March energy forecast for the different things that are happening the latter part of this month. Mainly yesterday was Ostara, the spring equinox. We jumped into Aries season in full force, and we have some interesting astrological alignments, a Venus star point energy, and some Jupiter alignments later on this month. They're all supposed to be pushing us forward into more of our manifestation of our dreams and our goals and our wishes. So this podcast is here to support that. But I like to do these stories, well, number one, to showcase the stories, because I like writing them, and I think they're fun for me, and they have messages for you. And, as always on the podcast, we say we choose how you want to listen to the story. If you're new, you may just want to settle in and listen to this as, just being a story, like you would any other story you read, like, you can take it at face value and leave it at that. It's pretty entertaining regardless. These are all channeled stories, though, so they are not written in the, I guess, maybe, I don't even know if it would be called the traditional way, but, I connect with source. There's the personas that come through the story, so like the people in the stories. and they send the words to me, and I just tap in sacred space and receive those words via a stream of consciousness or automatic writing and just put them down on the pages for all of us to enjoy. And they're always a journey for me. Every time I write one, it takes me on a little journey for myself, for healing or knowledge or wisdom or guidance. And I always set that intention that they do the same for you if you choose to receive it, which is the second way to listen to the story. Is you can join me here in sacred space as I surround us all in love light and light love, inviting in the spirit guides of Viola Fire and any other of my personal guides that want to join us on this storytelling adventure. We have our fiery lion shifter and our mist vamp settling in. We have Archangel Metatron coming in to join us. And if you want to take your listening experience to an even higher level, then you can invite in your own spirit guides into this sacred circle and ask to be shown or ask to see whatever messages or metaphors or meanings are specific and personal to you on your journey as they come out through the pages of the story. I do my best to point out metaphors that Spirit wants me to point out when we're here, but there may be others that you see in the words or hear that are meaningful to you. So when we last left Viola and Grimold, if you haven't heard the first part yet, you can just scroll back in the podcast and find part 1. This last Sunday, I think it was uploaded. If you're coming from YouTube, these are all in playlists. So if you go to the home page of my channel, all this stuff is in playlists, make it a little bit easier. Or if you go to my website, which is in the show notes, all the playlists are on the homepage of my website as well. So you can find them that way too. If you like these stories and you want to read more of my work, then I invite you over to Smashwords. That link is also in the show notes, in the description box on YouTube. All of my ebooks are free. We've got different types of stories to suit different types of tastes. And those are all listed on Smashwords. That's my ebook publisher. All of them are free. All you need is an EPUB reader on your device or your phone. Kindle, I think, can do it, and any other EPUB reader you might find in the App Store, because these are EPUB files. So if your reader can read EPUB files, then you can read any of my books for free. And right now, I think I'm on, I don't even know, book 6 or book 7 or something like that. And we just keep going. The next one I'm going to publish is the sequel to The Bringers of the Light, which is the Argyle Inn, will be the next one coming out. But for now, let's get into Viola Fire. Viola and Grimold were in the woods. They had just met each other. We had just learned a little bit about what a fire goddess was. And they could hear something coming. They didn't know what was coming. And they heard like a chilling, like horrible sound. They had to cover their eyes and their ears because it was a big noise. They thought it might be the Watcher in the woods who comes out to do something. We haven't met the Watcher in the woods yet. He's just this mysterious force that everyone's afraid of. And we jump in there with chapter 2 of Vamp Can Run. So we learned in the first chapter that there's psychic vampires out there everywhere trying to seduce fire goddesses and steal their energy and their power. And, poor Viola wants to meet somebody nice, but she's afraid that any one of them could be a vamp that might take her fire goddess powers away. So many metaphors here. So Vamp can run. Grimold was the first to react, pulling himself up out of the bushes and directing his gaze towards the sound coming from the other side of the path. Viola stood gallantly, wondering if this would be her first and last fight. her violet skin damp against the back of her halter. If I don't make it back home in time for the fire gala, then everyone will think something is wrong with me. I can't let on that I've traveled outside the forbidden zone, she thought. Then I'll have to let on that I know how to escape from Dracona. Excuse me. And worse yet, her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of large wings flapping, and a giant squawk filled the air. As both Viola and Grimold prepared to run for it, a large eagle touched down on the path in front of them. "Well, hello there," he said, seemingly unaware that he almost scared the hot pants off poor Viola. "What the—" Grimold said out loud. He had just been about to transform when the eagle landed. Good thing he hadn't. It definitely wasn't the place or time for him to go into his true form. "I'm looking for a place to roost," the eagle said, looking pretty proud of herself for managing such a landing in the forbidden zone. "We're not from here," Grimold said, half laughing and breathing a sigh of relief. Just a big bird, he thought. He had thought for sure it was the Watcher, and he hadn't wanted a showdown with that character, much less out here in the middle of who knows where. He had only just teleported here and assumed the guise of a woodland gnome, and hadn't wanted to blow his cover so early. He needed the girl to trust him completely. The eagle went on looking for an appropriate roosting spot, but soon realized there were no craggy cliffs or overhangs in this wood. There was only a deep sense of foreboding and heavy dampness from all the conifer trees. Viola, having recovered from the eagle landing, made ready to move on. There was obviously no one here who could get her to the powwow lodge. Best to keep moving, she thought. She tightened her knapsack around her and made off towards the foggy path going east. "I'm sure this is the way to the lodge," she thought to herself. Unable to get her cell within range of a signal, she just had to trust her intuition to guide her. Viola had always been a bit precocious and impatient, even as a child. She had been born into a small family of fire guardians, who immediately realized upon her birth that she was one of the chosen ones, a fire goddess. They had taken great care to protect and nurture her, even calling in the Star Mothers to teach her the old ways. And under a cloak of secrecy and silence, she had been guided and guarded. But as she grew into her teenage years, she longed to get away from the sanctity and chastenness of the Star Mothers. She was ready for adventure and beyond. She was ready to test herself against everything she had heard that a fire goddess could be. She was coming into her womanhood, and almost everything set her off. She knew that her destiny lay in her ability to keep herself alive and away from vamps, watchers, and anything else that might mean a fire goddess harm. She walked more quickly now, driven by hunger and a need to take that warm bath and revive her energy. You see, fire goddesses only came out during the day. They needed the night and the moon in order to rest and go into dream time. Dream time was where they astral projected to do their service work, and Viola had been given a special assignment a few months back. Her Star Mother guardian, Intressa, had told her that on her next birthday she was to be initiated into the coven of Dragonshire, but only if she could prove herself. The guardians of the coven wanted fire goddesses most of all as part of their secret sect. Having a fire goddess meant prestige and power for any coven. Dragonshire was the neighboring village to Dracona, and had been scouting for a fire goddess ever since their last one was obliterated. A story they refused to tell even us at the Chronicles. We simply had to try to intuit what may have happened there, and even our best psychics, the oracles, couldn't tap into it. As Viola moved away from Grimold and the enormous eagle, she quickened her pace. There were no further pleasantries between them, and she longed to be alone again in the great woods. The woodland path leading towards the foggy stream gleamed with a familiar light, and she began to feel better about her choice to keep going. Viola could travel a great distance without rest, but as soon as twilight approached, her energy began to wane. She needed to find the lodge, and soon, as both darkness and hunger were sneaking up on her. Let's take a deep breath. Just relax. Viola wanted so badly to understand what her role as a fire goddess was. She knew what the Star Mothers had told her and taught her about her heritage and all the great things that fire goddesses before her had accomplished, but she quite simply couldn't see how that applied to her. She was by birth a fire goddess, but deep inside, a young sheltered girl of Dracona who had no experience in using the vast majority of her innate powers and wisdom. She knew they existed within her somewhere, as Entressa kept telling her, but she had yet to experience their true magnificence. But all that was soon to change as she made her way into the foggy duskiness of the woods surrounding the path. She forged expertly through the low brush and onto the rough outlines of the path ahead, but the fog appeared to be closing in more quickly than she had thought. Now here at the Chronicles, we only report on the type of happenings that are noteworthy, and we feel that in order to truly understand how we got involved in this story, you must understand our position. We have been commissioned by the Heavenly Guardians as a position that holds the utmost integrity when it comes to reporting on the adventures and life journeys of those that fall under the jurisdiction, for lack of a better term, of the souls incarnate in this Milky Way galaxy. Any other galaxy is notwithstanding, and under the guidance and supervision of completely different paranormal entities and leaders. Now that we hope this is crystal clear, we can continue to report on how and why we were asked to document the goings-on of little Viola and the fire goddesses. We truly believe this to be a noteworthy story, and in us documenting its key highlights, you will come to appreciate just how exemplary our skills are. But enough about us. Viola felt the hair on the back of her neck stand upright, with a knowing and sensing that all in the fog was not benevolent. She quickened her pace, hoping to see the outline of the powwow lodge, but to her disadvantage, the impending darkness was quite literally blinding her to the outline that really was waiting several steps onward. She moved right when she should have moved left, and that's when they connected. With a hiss and a loud wail, the vamp that had been hiding in the dusky underbrush leapt forward and placed his hand around Viola's throat. He didn't want trouble, only a little taste of a fire goddess's flesh. He could live several days on just a little nip of her sweet violet skin. And he didn't have time for seduction methods. His energy was draining from having followed poor Viola from the Forbidden Zone entrance all the way to this location. He had hoped for a more formidable entrance so that he didn't have to put up with a struggle, but this would have to do for now. Viola was caught completely off guard, but not so much so that she couldn't react. She felt the tight grip around her throat and the vamp's wicked breath against her delicate skin. But all was not lost. She did as Entressa had instructed her, and as she had practiced so many times before in school and at home with Emerald, guiding her in just the right moves. She quickly unsheathed the cobalt dagger at her side, and in one sweeping motion, with her right hand, she gripped the dagger, pulling the vamp closer to her with her left hand, wrapping around the back of its neck. She looked longingly into its dead eyes. The seducer now becoming the seduced, her amber eyes danced with delight as she pursed her lips. She quickly raised the dagger with her right hand as the vamp caught the gleam of its pointed blade in sight. Just one pierce to the jugular was all she needed. "Wait!" the vamp squealed. Just wait a minute," he stammered, his weakness catching up with him. "You don't have to do that, you know." He wasn't quite begging yet, but was close. Viola was in no need. Hold on. All right, let's take a deep breath. Viola was in no mood to negotiate, but she also wasn't so inclined for killing on this night. This would be her first real kill, and she wasn't feeling it. She started to feel a heat in her body and realized that the vamp was using his seduction spell, the last of the tricks up his sleeve to get her to cave. She shut her eyes and recanted the spell her teacher had taught her, using the incantation to release the spell that had come over her, and it was gone. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't slay you dead right now," she seethed, eyeing him up and down. He was quite a formidable male figure for a vamp, she thought, But no, she mustn't succumb to her own female pheromones. I might have something very interesting and very valuable to show you, the vamp said, trying to remain calm and stay upright. If you let me go, that is, he said, slyly eyeing her formidable figure up and down. I know what the role of a fire goddess is, he said, playing into her vulnerabilities. Just as she was about to get curious, a loud crash came from behind them, and Grimold came bounding towards them so fast they didn't have time to react. Using the hefty club he had crafted from yew wood, he placed one quick blow to the temple of the vamp and grabbed Viola backwards with his other hand. Get out of here, he said to Viola. I'll take care of him. Now it was well known that a vamp could overtake a poor, selfless gnome any old day. But Grimold was no poor, selfless gnome, as we had earlier reported. Grimold was much more than that. But to the casual onlooker, he was easily mistaken for overweight and unwieldy. The vamp almost laughed out loud if it hadn't been for the smarting lump at its temple. You have no power over me, the vamp stammered, trying to regain his composure. I could smite you down like this. He snapped his long, thin fingers. You're lucky I don't like gnome plasma. It tastes disgusting, he said with disdain. Well, I guess we're at an impasse then, Grimold said, standing well below the tall, muscular stature of the vamp, yet still wielding the mighty yew club. I have a question for you if you prefer to exchange magical secrets, Grimold said, planning to obtain the long-withheld knowledge he needed to continue his quest. He knew this particular vamp held secrets. He could tell by the smell of its rotting flesh, so expertly hidden under the stature and huskiness of a deep voice and strong, seductive musculature. I don't know what you're speaking of, the vamp lied. I heard you, Grimold said, just before I came out of the brush. I heard you tell her you knew something about, what is it, a fire goddess? He was trying to sound uninterested. I just want to know more about what that is. Grimold was playing stupid on purpose. In exchange, I will tell you how to escape from the Forbidden Zone and continue living rather than me bashing in your brains right now. So, which is it, death or discussion? The vamp really wanted to return home to Nest. He was not going to make it through the night, and with such a head bump clouding his clear thinking, it would be difficult to navigate past the Watcher in the dark. He needed his clan and his home soil to regenerate completely. Okay, I'll tell you. What the heck, the vamp stammered. It's no good to me anyway. I was only using the intel to lure the girl into my arms. Well, spill it, Grimold said, getting impatient now and gripping the yew club a little tighter. Okay, well, it goes like this, the vamp said. At least that's how they told it to me. He said, feeling a little lighter and more clear now. He was starting to feed off Grimold's auric field. Funny, it didn't feel like a gnome's energy, he thought. He felt power and deep magic coming from this small, portly figure. And then he figured it out. In an instant, he realized a glamour spell when he felt it. He felt anger and a deep, powerful something, while Grimold began to feel a little lightheaded. With a newfound strength, the vamp kicked Grimold down. You'll never find out now, the vamp said, standing over poor Grimold, who was slipping into unconsciousness. The last thing he saw before he passed out was the vamp running wildly away into the woods. Oh, I forgot all about this story. I wrote it so long ago. There's so many metaphors here. I don't even know if I want to go into it. I just want to have it be like a fun story for now and let you pull out the metaphors about young divine feminines being in the fog, about their own innate powers and wisdom and strength and psychic gifts and abilities, and the divine masculine who really is strong and feral but has got himself disguised as some poor self-doubting, possibly doubting his self-worth, portly, seeing himself as like a portly little somebody that nobody would want. So much there about union and divine feminine and divine masculine journey. I'm just going to leave it at that for now, though. I'm going to let this stay a little bit on the lighter side for this month and just let your guides take you where they may in terms of any of you that are on your own spiritual journey. Take a look at what's going on with Viola. If you're a divine masculine listening to this, take a look at what's going on with Grimold. Think about psychic vampires and what just happened there with that vamp between Viola and Grimold, and what the vamp was trying to do. Oh, I could just go on and on, like sucking the life force out of them individually, sucking the life force out of their connection to each other. These are also hidden metaphors and messages for secret someones that are listening. Yeah, this means you. Hearing these messages and metaphors is just confirmation for those of you on a journey path with maybe your special someone. You may be hearing messages and metaphors that you've heard elsewhere, and you just keep feeling like you need confirmation that you're on the right path, that you're on the right journey. This is another confirmation. This came up earlier this morning. I will just share this story before we sign off the podcast. This came up earlier this morning. I signed on to YouTube in the morning, and there's just a couple of channels that I follow. And one channel was starting to go into all these Q&A for like a live Q&A for the people that were on. And I was like, wait a minute. I do this as a profession. I'm constantly in contact with spirit. I have a spiritually based business. I have a heart-based business. I have clients who I work with one-on-one. We do all these things on the podcast. I mean, you can tell the depth and the breadth of my knowledge and my, just what gifts I have been given from Source to work with you all on. Because, I do kind of take credit for them. Like one of my teachers says, like, I don't take credit for them. They just came to me from my teacher. I'm like, no, I do kind of take credit for them because I've worked hard to get where I'm at in terms of, building and bringing myself up, building my trust in my own abilities as a high priestess and a shaman and a author and a master healer and all of that. But so I go on the YouTube and I'm like, why am I here listening to this Q&A? Like, I don't need somebody to give me these answers. Like, I can flip a card or I can channel in any guide and intuit them for myself. And there was the same thing. I telepathically connected with someone this morning, and I was telling him, like, can you just, like, pull some cards for me? Like, just as an experiment. And so he gets the cards and everything, and he's pulling cards for me, and he's telling me, this is all telepathically. He's like, here's your cards, and we're interpreting them together. And then I was like, well, pretty much all the messages I've been getting all this morning. And then I told him, okay, pull some cards for yourself. And so he pulled some cards for himself. And then he's like, yeah, pretty much the messages I've been getting all along too. And so we were like, so what are we doing? What do we need to feel like we need other people to validate what we already know? It's just all goes back to trust in yourself, trust in your journey, trust in your path, trust in the messages that you are receiving. And I think this story with Viola Fire is just going to help us in the trust department. Because even though I shared this with someone in a one-on-one session the other day, but it was like, I don't want to go into the whole story again, but it all had to do with trust. And it's like, somehow when you start on a spiritual path, you lose all the trust you originally had in yourself. And I guess it's because it comes up to be healed, which is part of it. That could be a whole podcast episode in and of itself about trust. So maybe that's one we need to do. Because I do want to start doing some more healing episodes with us. But anyway, it was like, I think this Viola Fire story is just going to take us down a path of learning to trust our gifts and our powers and our ability more. And we'll just have more resources on the show to help you awaken to what those are within you, because they're different. You're not like anybody else. Your powers, your superpowers are different than mine. And where I, channel books and make oracle decks and, I'm a master healer and meet with people and do all this cool stuff that you see on the podcast and in client sessions. Your superpower may be something completely different, but it's yours, and it's meant to help you along your journey in whatever that means to you. So I'm going to end this here. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. If you are interested in working with me, that's not what these podcasts are about, but that is an option that is out there. I don't normally put that out there, but the guides are wanting me to say that every now and then, just in case people are wondering. There's a show email. You can email me, or you can connect with me on my Instagram direct messages. I don't publicly put on my website services and stuff, because I custom design services for each person individually. So whatever. I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyway, if anyone feels inclined to that, wants to know more about that, you can contact me and I can share with you what that would mean for you. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. The next time we come back, we will be doing I think we're going to be doing the April. What is today's date? Let's see. Gotta look here. The calendar. Yeah, I think the next time we come back, we're doing somewhere next week. The April energy forecast is coming up. And we have a couple of more episodes planned for the month of March. So we will see you all again in one of those. Thank you so much for joining me here at the podcast. Talk to you later. See you again. Take care, family.
This episode has been brought to you by the Thunder Rose Ranch and Forest, a sacred place where the beings of light surrounding its etheric location are here to teach love to all humanity. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care.